chat. I see my friend Brandon just joined. Okay. Let me see if I can. All right. Okay, Rico, I just found out how to allow you to record. So hopefully you're all set. And all right, here we go. Hello, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us here tonight. And I am going to try a little something new so we could really see our speakers when we are speaking. And that is, I've finally learned how to pin a video. And so when it is your time to speak to Pam and Donna, I will do the same for you. And that way people can kind of really see your facial expressions, etc. So you're probably wearing makeup, unlike me. I am still pandemic standards, but anyway, that's all right. Okay, well, tonight we are hosting 2 out of the 3 Democratic candidates for sheriff. We have Sheriff Donna Tompkins and Ms. Pam Brown, who is one of her challengers. And we have let me see, Greg Countryman could not be here tonight, our marshal, but he has asked me to read a little statement from him before we started. And there will be a series of forums next week put on by or kind of facilitated by the Courier Echo Latino and a group of organizations in Columbus that are doing a collaboration. And so we'll have an opportunity to hear from him, and I'll share that logo and such as soon as or not the logo, but the promotion for it as soon as we can. So Greg says, I offer my sincere apology that I couldn't participate in this forum due to a pre-existing obligation. However, I do invite you to the forum on May 26th, which is next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And so like I said, we will definitely share that information as soon as we have that link. So how we are going to run this today is that we are going to allow each candidate 5 minutes to do an opening statement. And then the Muskogee County Dems have 2 questions that we have shared with the candidates, and we will ask them to answer them both. And then also, we will take questions from the audience, from the participants. And how I will do that is ask you to just because I'm going to keep everyone muted, and I'll unmute you as we go. I would like you to just put question in the chat box when we get there, and then I will call on you individually and unmute you for that process, and so we'll go from there. So first, I'm going to give the honor to our sheriff to, let me see, pin you first of all. So there you are, and then also give you or ask you to please start with your personal statement. Oh, sorry, I unmuted the wrong person. There you go. I'm trying here. There we go. You're set. No? Donna, unmute. Okay, we should be set. I can't hear you. Someone else is chatting. Let's see. Maybe there's another Donna in here who I unmuted. No? Is your volume up on your computer? Hmm. Let me see. Oh, I was just seeing if pinning it was doing something to the somehow the. If there's anything I can do on this end, Donna, and I'm looking, please send it to me in the chat because I'm monitoring that as well. Okay, she's getting tech assistance. Is he going next to, is she going to her husband in the next room? Possibly. Oh no, maybe to the son.
Can you hear us?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
No problem. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
I'm really glad I had some technical assistance there because I wouldn't have been able to figure it out.
I'm glad you did too. So, okay, let's get started. And thank you for your opening statement. Here we go.
Okay. First off, for everyone here, I'm Sheriff Donna Tompkins. I was elected sheriff in 2016, took office January 2017. I worked for the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office from the time that I was 19 years old in college. Lived here in Muskogee County, went to Baker High School. I went to Columbus State University, where I have an associate's and a bachelor's in criminal justice and a master's in public administration. I additionally attended the Georgia Law Enforcement Command College, where I graduated, and did a National Human Resources certification as well, as far as my educational background. With the sheriff's office, I started as a civilian. I worked in the jail as a correctional officer. I was a deputy sheriff on the street, made the rank of sergeant, then lieutenant, and then eventually captain. And that when I retired to run for the office of sheriff. You know, I've told people the reason that I ran the first time was I knew where we were as an agency. There were, you know, if people aren't familiar with Columbus, there had been years of budget overruns. There was a lawsuit pending against the city from the sheriff and some other elected officials here in town. That eventually cost the taxpayers $3 million. So in total, under the prior administration, it cost the taxpayers $16 million. And so I believed that someone had to step up and run for sheriff that could bring back the integrity to the office of the sheriff. And so, you know, I ran. And since being your sheriff, I think we've come a long way. We've accomplished so much in my first term. And, you know, I say this all the time, no one does anything by themselves. It takes a great team. And I'm amazed every day at the great people that work for the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office. In the first year, we've made numerous infrastructure improvements to the Muskogee County Jail. So much so, in fact, that after 20 years, the Department of Justice released us from a consent decree, because that means we are complying with their standards, federal standards on how to run a facility. No facility is ever going to be perfect, but we've come such a long way, and I'm very proud of the people that work in that facility every day and the hard work that they do. I promised that I would work with others, and you know, during this time of COVID, I think that's going to be so important going forward. You know, it was in 2008 that we had the recession, and that began the troubles for the sheriff's office. And so I already see that with the budget problems we're going to have from the state, from the national level, from the local level, it's going to take a great effort on everyone's part. And I just feel that I already have the experience and I have the relationships that are going to be necessary to get this community through these next 4 years. So I ask for the people's vote, and I've run on integrity, commitment, and experience, and I still run on that. I ask people to look at my record and know what we've accomplished, and I ask for them to continue to support me going forward. And that's my statement.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Sheriff Tompkins. And let me mute you and get down to Pam. Pin her. Hello, Ms. Pam Brown. And okay, you're set. Now I'd like to introduce Pam Brown, who many of you know, and she will be giving her opening statement.
First of all, Ms. Walker, I want to thank you for this opportunity for having this forum. With the pandemic going on, it's not been easy for candidates to get out and in the community and relate with the public. So this was a great idea here. I want everyone to know that I started working for Muscogee County Sheriff's Department in 1987. I'm not from Muscogee County, Columbus, Georgia. I moved here. I was modeling at the time, and when I got tired of modeling, I felt like it was time to find somewhere to settle down, and I thought Columbus, Georgia would be a great community. After working with the sheriff's office, I got promoted to sergeant approximately 4 years after I got hired. After being promoted to sergeant, I was promoted to lieutenant approximately 2 years after that. I was a member of the Metro Narcotics Task Force. I was the leader of the Muscogee County Intelligence Unit, where we successfully investigated numerous crimes and made one of the largest drug busts in the district. I was a board member with the Georgia Civil Process Association, where we organized training seminars for law enforcement across the state. I also was a member of the emergency response to domestic biological incidents. I worked Hurricane Katrina. I was also involved with domestic violence training, courtroom security, and various training incidents with Incident Command, correctional certified counselor with Harris County Prison once I left Muscogee County Sheriff's Office. When I ran it back in 2012, I felt like I was a great candidate to run the Muscogee County Sheriff's Office. I have worked every facet of the Sheriff's Office with a lot of the personnel that's there that has seniority over me per se, that I have a lot of knowledge of the Sheriff's Office. I felt like I would be able to work with, and I felt like there was a lot that I could provide for this community to help make this community safer. Once upon a time, I called myself a little gangbanger back in the day when I was young, so I know about all the gang activities. I worked with Columbus Police Department with a lot of the gang activity. And I just feel like I could be a good candidate for a sheriff of Muscogee County to help better the community.
Great. Thank you very much, Pam. And I'm going to keep you on a screen because I figure I'll kind of flip-flop with, asking each of you one of the questions. You get the first chance to answer and then the second chance. So Pam, I'm going to move right into the first question that the Muscogee County Dems has, and that is, with the powers of the outgoing marshal's office, what do you think could be the added benefits of both roles being combined, and what do you think could be the drawbacks of that?
The drawback, I feel, may be the manpower. I know right now the sheriff's office is slack on manpower, but I think with the two being combined, the sheriff will be able to make sure that all the duties of both will be done right. For it's like it was an overlap of duties. The Marshal Department was to serve civil process and work the courts, but the Sheriff's Office was also serving civil process and working the court. So it was a big overlap there. I think with the two being combined, the sheriff will be able to make sure the personnel, she has the right personnel, or he have the right personnel to do all those duties. The Marshal Department had started writing tickets, which that was not part of their duties. And the Sheriff Department was out trying to serve papers. It was a point where the Sheriff's Office did not do evictions. Now with the two together, the Sheriff Department will be able to maintain the civil process, the courtrooms, the evictions, and have it all.
Great, thanks, Pam. Mute and then unmute, pin. Okay, Sheriff Tompkins, excuse me, your answer, please. How do you think, what will be the added benefits of the roles being combined, and what will be the drawbacks?
Well, I think Ms. Brown had it exactly right. I think that with added personnel, you get more benefit. And one of the things that is important is the municipal court, the marshal's office, they only had jurisdiction in the municipal court. So if a subpoena or another civil process came out of a state court or a superior court, a juvenile court, the marshal's office would not have the authority to serve that process, even though they're process servers. So with them all being sheriff's deputies, if you are over here at this address serving an eviction and a block away, there's a subpoena for state court, you can serve that subpoena as well. So with the addition of those 17 people, we can have a civil process unit that really does focus on serving civil process and doing evictions. And I think it's just going to be a much more efficient way to get the job done, and we'll get more benefit. Additionally, they did do security for municipal court, but the sheriff's office has the responsibility of courtroom security for state court, superior court, probate court, municipal court, recorder's court. And so we will have additional resources to make sure that we can secure courtrooms as well. So my vision, of course, is that those people would fall into the sheriff's office, continue to serve civil process, and do courtroom security, which is what they are doing now, except they will have the authority to do it for all of the courts. So I think it will be a great benefit to the citizens. Actually, I think you'll see a more efficient service or process.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And now flipping it, asking you this second question first. That is, what is your stance on voter registration and absentee ballots for detainees in the jail, especially in light of COVID-19?
Right. You know, this year for the first time ever, Tonza Thomas reached out with her group, and we did a voter drive in the jail. I think they only had 3 or 4 people that were interested in registering. We worked that through our chaplain services, and I believe she did go down and register 3 or 4 people to vote. I know the law changed, and therefore an absentee ballot can be mailed to a jail facility. If it is requested there and that person is there, they can request it. And that's always been the case in the past. We just haven't had an awful lot of interest for whatever that reason might be. And we did put out some literature and some information. You know, there were a lot of things that were asked that we just couldn't do, but we did what we could do. And this was historic because this was the first time that's ever been done in the jail. So I would say that we've done it. I think we will continue to do it in the upcoming years.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to pin Pam, and there you go. You unmuted yourself. Same to you. What's your stance on voter registration and absentee ballots for detainees in the jail?
Okay, detainees in the jail, they have the right, if they have the right to vote, the law says that anyone that is not a convicted felon, and the majority of the people in the jail is there for pre-sentence, and they're not a felon. And there are a lot of organizations that have programs, and there's a lot of states that the inmates are already voting. I was reading an article, I looked this up earlier, and I was reading an article where there is a group in Georgia that was put in place back in 2003, I think, where they helped inmates, helped the different sheriff departments get inmates registered to vote and had ways for them to vote. So I think as long as the law allows them to vote, they should be able to vote. And a lot of the people in the jail do not know that they have the right to vote because the personnel do not give them that information. Problems with voting in the jail impacts the communities of color, since about almost half, 48% of persons in jail are nationally are African American or Latino. And a lot of these jails are not giving these inmates that information to allow them to vote. And I think they should be able to, if they are. You have some of the poor people who cannot make bond and can't vote. If they were out of bond, they could vote. You have some of the rich ones that can make bond. They go to jail, get out on bond, and go vote. So I think detainees that have the right to vote should have the opportunity to vote. And I think our community should do something about that towards giving them the opportunity to vote.
Great, thank you very much, Pam. Everyone, all to just now opening it up for questions. If you have a question for either both or either individual candidate, please just you go to the chat room, put down question, and then I'll call on you in order of your writing that. So let's see what we've got. Oh, well, looks like someone has asked a question and has written it out. And you can do that if you like, and I'll ask the question, or you can just put question and I will unmute you. But this question seems to be for both. There was a question on the ballot about getting rid of bonds, as it was unfair to underprivileged and inmates who were in the poverty status. How do you feel about bonds and or bonding companies? So I'm going to give it to you, Pam, since you're there, and then we'll go over to Sheriff Tompkins.
You know, when a person go to jail, you know, it's always been you have to make bond. Now, underprivileged people that can't afford bonds, I mean, I think that's something the bonding companies would have to work with that individual towards bonding them out. There are some situations where the sheriff may be able to do an own recognizance bond, but it depends on the nature of the crime, I feel. So there's ways the sheriff probably could go to the judge to help with an underprivileged person, but for his bonds, I think that's more something the bonding company should deal with instead of the sheriff department, because the sheriff department has to uphold the law. And if the law says the person has to go to jail until they make bond, that's something the sheriff has to do. I think that should be directed toward the bonding company helping underprivileged.
Okay, and Sheriff Tompkins, can you give us your opinion?
Yes, ma'am. First, I want to say back in 2018, we started looking at some of the larger sheriff's offices in the state of Georgia. And what we found was, for instance, Chatham County, which is pretty much the same size as we are, they kind of did a low-level release, an own recognizance bond on low-level offenses. When I say that, I mean things like drinking in public, maybe being in the park after hours, low-level city ordinance offenses. And so we rolled that out in 2018. Now, I will say this, we will give you 2 chances at that. If you come to jail for drinking in public this time and maybe loitering the next time, we will look at giving you a bond and letting you out of the jail. If you come back the 3rd time, you're going to have to see the judge or post the bond. That was, I believe, in 2018. Sometime after that, I did work with the judges and got some real clear parameters on things that other offenses that might be eligible for that. For example, say a driving while license suspended, a traffic charge like that, that if you could not post a bond, and this was your only offense, a traffic offense, or perhaps maybe a criminal trespass, it's very limited. Possession of marijuana, that was a huge one that we dealt with. So if that were your only offense, we would look at doing an on recognizance bond for those level of offenses. Not a felony offense, not an offense involving a DUI, never an offense that involved a family violence or, you know, an injury to someone, but very low level offenses. And we did run that through the judges to make sure that everyone was on the same page. And again, we'll give you 2 chances at that. Your 3rd time in on an offense, you're going to have to see a judge or you're going to have to post bond. As far as bonding companies go specifically, I am in favor of bonding companies, especially for the felony offenses that they are utilized for. And here's the biggest reason. A bonding company guarantees that person will come to court. That's their job. They're there to make sure to remind that person to come to court. There is not enough law enforcement in the state of Georgia to try to bring everyone back to court that needs to come back to court when their court date comes. So to me, the bonding company is in a transaction with that individual. And they know that if that person doesn't come to court, they could lose money. So it's really on them to help get the people back in court. I'm in favor of that. We catch a lot of criticism about OR bonds. So I want to take the chance to say this right here. Anything above the low level offenses that I just mentioned, that is not within the sheriff's parameters to do anything about. That is up to a judge. That is up to a court. A judge can do whatever they want to do. And if they say let them out on murder on an OR bond, the sheriff has no recourse in that. We follow the orders of the court. So the only offenses that the sheriff might have some say over is those low level offenses. And we've already done that. I frankly have gone as far as I'm comfortable in the decisions that we've made about those OR bonds. Anything above that, I think you need to see a judge or you need to post a bond or whatever that might be. But that's my stance on that.
Okay, great, thank you. We had a person named Sunshine who sent in a question, and then I see Brandon did next. Anyone else who has a question, please either just put question in your chat room, in the chat box, and then I will unmute you to ask it yourself, or if you don't want to ask it yourself, you can write it out. So this next question for the sheriff: what do you plan to do for the Black community? I haven't seen you very much involved.
Well, I don't know where you've been because, you know, obviously the sheriff yourself, you can't be everywhere, but we are involved in about 37 different things in the community. We just did a mentoring program with Carver High School. We just raised money for Carver High School's band. We are always out in the community with a mayor group doing events. You know, and we support so many different things. Girls Inc., the United Way, Special Olympics. I mean, I can't even remember all of the different charities and events that the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office specifically is involved in. But the autism community, that is another huge area that the Sheriff's Office works in that area. And I wouldn't say that's a Black community, but it's the community. And certainly there are Black autistic children or high school students or whatever. So if there's something specific, you know, that someone thinks we should be involved in, you know, I'd love to hear it, but do know that we are in the community all the time.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Brandon Wilkins, and he's asking both of you. So I'm going to switch over to Pam. There you are, unmute, and oh, sorry, this whole pinning thing is. Where are you, Pam?
I'm here.
I know, I
hear
see you on one side of it, but then on the part where the pictures are, where I can actually pin you, oh, okay, boom, there you are. The next question is for both, and it kind of is actually just ping-ponging off of the last question we had, and it is, what will a sheriff's department do to try to keep incarceration rates down, such as community outreach? What would you want to put forth if you were elected sheriff?
You know, a lot of the activities the sheriff department has worked. Even when I was there, everything that Sheriff Tompkins just talked about, all of those were in place when I was a employee there. I think what the question they're looking for, like the first question said, ask Sheriff Tompkins what she's going to do for the Black community. It's not about the Black community. It's about the community as a whole, the whole Muscogee County. I plan to be out and about. I'm going to have people doing all these different activities, and my role as sheriff, I'm going to be out and about as much as I can in the whole community, doing whatever I can to help with crime. I want to work with Columbus Police Department, the chief of police, and do whatever I can. If I have to give up manpower within the sheriff's office to help with the crime. But you just got to make sure you pick the right people that know how to get out and communicate with people and know how to talk to people and what have you. So I'm gonna do the best I can to help with the whole community as a whole, not just one community.
Okay, that sounds reasonable as well. So thank you very much. Donna, since we talked about that before in that way, is there anything that you want to add since this is a separate question?
Yes, and Ms. Brown hit on a very good point. Back in October, the Columbus Police Department was critically understaffed. And at that point, we designated 2 deputy sheriffs 24 hours a day just to answer calls in the community with Columbus 911. And I will say that I believe we have a very good working relationship with the Columbus Police Department, and we are definitely there to support them. We work with them. Matter of fact, like I said, 2 people are assigned to Sector A only to answer calls. You know, there's always an event or someone who wants people there, and I totally understand that. Again, you know, I was thinking of all the things we do. We support cancer walks, and you know, just I think there's about 37 different things. But I have to say this too, you know, deputy sheriffs have a job to do as well, and we don't have a lot of manpower just to detail to one particular event. And I often tell people, if it's a day, we can, and Ms. Brown knows this because she and I has been sent to numerous of these kinds of things. You know, if it's for a day, I can certainly detail you over here. I believe she and I both worked with Partners in Education. We're still involved in that as an at-large partner with Muscogee County School District. So we are in the community. We just don't have enough manpower to designate 5 or 10 people just to be in the community. You know, they have to be in the courts, or they have to be working in the jail, or they have to be serving warrants or checking the 500 sex offenders that we have to monitor. So, you know, we don't have a lot of spare people just for that, but as much as we can, we certainly try to be visible in the community. And as long as I'm sheriff, we're going to keep doing that. We've all done that. Ms. Brown and I certainly both were public relations or community officers, if you will. So we certainly get the value of community partnerships, but we also understand that we have to have manpower assigned to do the jobs that they do as well.
Great. And I'm going to keep you here because we have another question that is for both of you. So just for ease of back and forthing, question is, why is local law enforcement in Columbus so short-staffed?
I think that's a great question, but I will tell you that I don't think it's a Columbus, Georgia problem. What I think is that it's a national problem, and I think it goes back a little bit. First off, we had a great economy for a while, and the job doesn't pay that well, to know what you have to know and to do what sometimes you have to do. I've often said at one point my son was selling cell phones and making $45,000 a year, and a deputy sheriff is walking in making $39,000 a year. So, you have to take that into consideration. This job isn't for everyone. Everyone's not good at it. And hopefully we weed those out really quickly. But I think it's a national problem. I think that kind of like the military, if you grew up with someone close to you who was in the military, you're more likely to look at the military as an option. And I think there's a lot to be said for the same in law enforcement. If you personally knew someone in law enforcement, you might certainly consider that as a career choice. But again, I do think this too, there's a lot of scrutiny on law enforcement these days. And that's a heavy load, and it's one that you take an oath to follow. And just like I said to someone today, your integrity is really all you have. And if you ever lose it, you can't get it back. So I think that, it's easier to sell cell phones than to do all that, or to, answer the phone for someone, especially for $39,000 a year. So I think the pay has something to do with it. I think the public scrutiny, I think, most of us in this line of work know that, we have to always be right. And that's a tough thing to know going into a job. So that's just my perspective on it.
Okay, thank you. And Pam, do you have something to add to that? Let me unmute you. Okay, so why are we so short-staffed here in Columbus?
I agree with Sheriff Tompkins on that about the short staff. I think the community need other businesses and other opportunities here in Muscogee County. I think a lot of people take these jobs with law enforcement just for the paycheck. I think we need people that have the heart to be a law enforcement officer. And I think if it was other opportunities for young people in Muscogee County to try to reach out to get better jobs, we would have a better law enforcement in Muscogee County. A lot of the young kids, they go off to college, and then when they get out of college, they want to leave Muscogee County because there's nothing in Muscogee County. And they leave and go to other counties and other states for the job opportunities. And the ones that stay in Muscogee County, they take these jobs because these are the only jobs they can get, and their heart is not really into being in law enforcement. They really, you have people that went to school to work finance, business, but they can't get a job nowhere in Muscogee County, and they don't want to leave Muscogee County, and then they end up coming into law enforcement. I just think the community needs more business opportunities in Muscogee County. Is she muted?
No, I am. I should be unmuted now. I'm getting better at this, but it's not always completely seamless. Okay, well, I'm going to keep you, thank you for that answer. And I'm going to keep you on because there's another question for both of you. And it touched on something that Sheriff Tompkins spoke about a moment ago. And that is a question saying statement bonding companies are not happy with the OR bonds. And if you could, I personally don't know what OR is, so if you could put that into your answer, because it cuts into their profits. So what would you do to solve this problem? And that's to you, Pam.
Oh, me? But like Sheriff Tompkins said, OR bonds are only for the less crimes, like the public drunkenness, the disorderly conduct. Now, I don't know anything about bonds, and there are no bonds with felonies and what have you, OR bonds. So that's on recognizance bonds.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like I said earlier, everybody has to go to jail and be bonded out. That's the law. Now, when it comes, and I feel like the bonding company should be the one, but like I said, it depends on the severity of the crime. Like the misdemeanor crimes that Sheriff Tompkins was talking about, I understand. Now, I do not understand if people have been getting out of jail on felony charges on OR bonds, unless the judge allowed it. Now, for a sheriff, I probably would not allow a person to get out of jail on an OR bond if it's a felony charge. And that's the harder crimes, you know, than what Sheriff Tompkins was talking about. And see, right now, I do not know what the Sheriff Department is doing for us when it comes to OR bonds, unless the judge stipulate it's an OR bond.
Okay, thank
You
you.
got me muted.
Yeah. No, I got me muted, but I unmuted myself because now I'm going to go back and let Sheriff Tompkins follow up on that question. Thank you so much, Pam.
You are.
Okay, and no, that's wrong. Sorry. There we go.
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
Trust me, I've had to learn this stuff too. So yes, and we agree. Ms. Brown and I definitely agree. And that's part of what the point that I was trying to make is that when it comes to the own recognizance bonds, it's not the sheriff. It is not the sheriff. The judges are letting people out on recognizance bonds. That is a judge thing. The only offenses that the sheriff has any say on those kind of things are those very low level offenses, those drinking in publics, those being in the park after hours, those possession of marijuanas, those kinds of things. If people are getting out on more serious offenses on an OR, that is going to be on a judge's order. And, I think the bonding companies are a little confused by that. But if the truth is, bonding companies don't want to come and get you out on a city ordinance offense anyway. If that bond's $150, that's not worth them coming to make their $10, So these are not the kind of things that bonding companies make money on. If they're upset, they need to be upset with the judges, which is where that's coming from. It is not. I actually had a phone call from a news person who said, "Did you let someone out of jail on an OR bond for murder?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I have zero authority in cases like that. Zero. If someone is getting out of jail on an OR bond for a serious or a felony offense, that has to come from a judge's order. Even the cases where we've had very sick people, or and when I say very sick, we're talking you need to be in hospice care. We still have to go before a judge and discuss that with the judge and still get a judge's order to do something like that. The sheriff has no authority there. And the only authority that I've exercised is, again, after talking with judges and the state court solicitor for misdemeanor offenses. We've done a few, and there are even a few of those that we do not get involved with. For example, a DUI or anything to do with the family violence, because that has a victim involved. And as your sheriff, I certainly don't want to put myself into that and then know that someone got out and hurt someone. So they have to post bond, they have to sign conditions, things like that. And that's why I said I've gone as far as I'm comfortable with and feel that it's good for the community at large. Low-level offenses, we'll give you 2 shots. And I jokingly, I say, after that, you better call somebody that loves you. So, on that 3rd offense, you need to call somebody that loves you. So.
Got it. Thank you so much. That makes sense. I want to, next question is actually for me, and I would love to address it. It was, why was the Republican candidate not invited to this forum? And the reason is because right now we have a primary election coming up. So we are just, the Democrats, we have 3 candidates running for sheriff. And so they were all invited so that our Democrats, and I'm the chair of the Muskogee County Democrats, so that they could kind of talk to our voters and give information and have questions asked of them. So once the June 9th election results are finalized, we'll know who the Democratic candidate will be. And then as we get closer to November, I'm sure that's when we will then have forums for both parties. But right now, we're just concentrating on, the election that's in front of us. So that is why. And we actually had a question from, I got a message from Mark LaJoy asking why he wasn't invited. And so I let him know that. All right, next. To all candidates. After, and you've touched on this too, so I'm going to have you answer it first, Sheriff Tompkins. After you took office and you managed to get the budget under control, which you did. So now with the pandemic and COVID-19 is throwing our entire economy into chaos, how do you think, what are some ideas that you have for maintaining the budget with the impact of the loss of a lot of the funding?
Well, so far we are still in the budget process, and we had all anticipated a really good year. But when the mayor put out his recommended budget this year, there were a lot of things that we asked for that we obviously did not get. And I certainly understand the mayor trying to be fiscally responsible. Every day you read about another city or another county having to cut the budget. Muskogee County's budget will become effective July 1. So we are good for this year because the money's already been there and already budgeted. So going July 1 and forward, we all realize that we're going to have to be careful to maintain our budgets. And during the process of that, the mayor increased our projected budget by 2%, which was a pay raise for all of the employees, which I'm thankful for. That's civilians, correctional officers, deputies, a 2% pay increase. So pretty much we got the same budget we got last year, except for the 2% pay raise. So I believe we're well on track for our budget this year. And, nobody saw the pandemic coming. I will say that I did go forward to a budget review because I asked for an additional step increase for deputy sheriffs only. And that is still something that the Budget Review Commission is looking at for the sheriff's office. But that was the one and only thing that I felt passionate about, that, hey, I've got to go in here and fight for our people. And at least ask for this for our people, even if we don't get the extra whatever that we had asked for. This is very important because the truth is the sheriff's office is a little behind the Columbus Police Department in pay. Even though every single year I've worked on it, we're still behind. But this is not the year to try to eat the whole elephant. So I'm trying to take a bite out of that elephant. And every year I try to take another bite out of that elephant. So I certainly see challenges coming up. None of us know right this minute exactly how difficult those challenges might be, but we will certainly do everything we can within our power. And I will say that I think the city in general is in fairly good condition as far as having reserves. So if we can all maintain our budgets and with the reserves that we have, I think we're going to come through this thing. I do. And I think we'll get on the other side of it and we're going to be okay.
I hope so, because really it does seem Governor Kemp already asked so many agencies to cut so much. And so anyway, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And Ms. Brown,
Yes.
how would you, what ideas do you have for trying to maintain the budget with such a severe economic crunch?
To the best of my ability, I would let my staff, my financial staff, maintain that budget, and we would do whatever it takes to keep it maintained. I would look at ways that maybe I could, I can't even think of the word I'm trying to use. I would come up with ways that I could compromise my deputies for his working overtime. giving them days off if needed be to work events and what have you. But I would maintain the budget to the best of my ability along with my financial staff and do whatever it takes to that'll work for the community to make sure we can still maintain by keeping the deputies on the street and what have you. Like when I was working at the jail right before I left, you know, we was short staffed one day and we didn't have the funds for overtime and what have you. And so my whole squad, they worked their butts off that day. And so what I did, I went and bought ice cream bars, every kind of ice cream bar I could find. And I told those deputies, I said, you go to the staff room and get your ice cream bar. So they all appreciated that. So they did not mind coming in working. And, you know, they let me know, you know, you was the first lieutenant that really did something for us like this. So I would do things like that and try to help maintain the budget and get deputies to volunteer to work extra.
Sorry, here we go. Okay, thank you, Pam. And I'm going to keep you on because we had a question specifically for you earlier, and that was,
Okay.
and just by the way, everyone, no new questions, please, just because of our time constraints. But I will be able to get to the other ones that are listed, you know, already. So Pam, the question to you is, what would you do differently as far as inmate living conditions?
Oh my gosh. That's one thing you know, I've talked to a lot of people and they ask me, I don't know what the conditions are there in the jail right now. I do know that the food is terrible. I work for a law firm, so a lot of the inmates call the attorney here and they talk to me and they tell me how gross the food is. The first thing I do, I make sure the food, if they have to eat chicken legs twice or 3 times a week, you know, that's the cheapest meat you can buy. So I will make sure their meals are better. I do know for a fact when you walk in the front of the jail, it's spider webs all in the ceiling. That's one thing that has to come down. I feel like if it's spider webs in the ceiling in the lobby, it's spider webs in the jail somewhere. I tell people all the time and they laugh at me. I say, if I win this election, the first 3 months, the news media and anybody else that want to find me, they gonna find me in the Muscogee County Jail with blue jean t-shirts, helping clean up the jail and making sure the inmates have a clean environment as well as the employees. The employees need that clean environment too. And I can't stand spiders. And when I see these spider webs in the ceiling, I'm sure the whole jail need cleaning. So that's something I'm willing to put on my blue jeans and my t-shirt and go into Muscogee County Jail and clean up the jail and make sure the inmates get decent and proper meals.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Let me mute. There is another question here for both of you, and let me find Donna and pin you. I don't see you, Donna, but I'm gonna look for you. I've unmuted you, I do believe, but the question.
I can see you.
Okay, good. As soon as I ask this question, then I'll find you. What is your standpoint when it comes to notifying victims of the inmates being released? Do you believe this is important for our community safety? So, Donna, if you could answer that first, and then Pam, I'll come back to you. Donna.
Okay. The law says that we have to notify victims of domestic violence and certain offenses. One of the problems that we have with that is that we're not getting the information from the police department or arresting agency. And I think that another one of the problems is that the victims are not letting us, or they're not giving us their information. So we're not getting it from the police department a lot of times, or we're not getting it from the victims. So our stance is we're trying to follow the law, because the law designates, especially on a family violence incident, the things that we need to notify the victim, and we try to get a telephone contact number, and we're required to give them at least 3 telephone calls in 10 to 15 minute increments, trying to reach them by telephone. I do know that the district attorney's victim witness advocate is also, and I'm not sure the status of this, but had gone to council asking for a system called VINES, which is a victim notification system. But I think that there's a little bit of misconception because, again, the information that we have to have has to be provided by that victim. We can't notify people that we don't have contact information for. So I'm certainly for following the law, but the law also states that they have to give us this information. So either the police officer or the jail, whichever that is.
Thank you very much. And let me go over to Pam and ask the same question. How do you feel about notifying victims of the inmates being released? And do you think it's important for community safety?
Yes, I do think it's important for community service, safety. As Sheriff Tompkins said, if the sheriff department do not have that information to contact a victim, even when I worked at the jail, there were several incidents where people came to jail for family violence, and when they got ready to be bonded out, we did not have the information to contact the victim. There again about the victim witness program. Once you go to court, when they're in court, the courts assign those victims with victim witness, and where the victim witness contact these individuals when people are getting out of prison or jail or what have you. But if the sheriff department do not have the information, the police department has to give that information. If it's not there and the sheriff department cannot obtain that information from the police department or the courts, there's no way that they can. But that is part of the sheriff department's job at the jail. When someone goes to jail and the person gets out, the jail normally notifies the victim only if they have that information. So I agree with Sheriff Tompkins on that.
Great, thank you very much, Pam. So we have one last question, and it's actually for Sheriff Tompkins. And so I'm going to ask that, and then I'm going to come back and just ask both ladies to give a closing statement, and then we will move forward. Let's see here. Sorry, doing my little thing here. Okay, what did I do? Donna, unmute, and pin, and then I need to see the chat. Okay, here we go. So Sheriff Tompkins, this is a question for someone here. Why did you hand back to the city $551,000, and now you decide to fight for people but give back money? Didn't you cut overtime in the sheriff's office? Okay, that's the question.
Okay, let me say this. When I took office, I was under Sheriff Darr's budget, so that was, you know, I couldn't feel responsible for that. The next year that I had my full budget, I did give back money. The next year, I came in and gave bonuses and got pay reform for our people. So that was the reason that year they got back that much money. But going forward, that's when I really came in and worked on the pay for our correctional officers and our deputies. So I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
No, I was just unmuting myself because I was actually answering the question and I didn't want the typing sound.
Oh, okay.
Let me go back. Here we go. So about the $551,000, and then it said, didn't you cut overtime in the sheriff's office?
No, we still work overtime in the sheriff's office when it's necessary. So I'm not real sure what that was about. Part of pay reform was what they called the gap pay. So that may be what the person's referring to. We did give up the gap pay to obtain a 2.5% pay raise fixed and a milestone increase fixed for all of our employees. But we still work overtime. When we're understaffed in the jail, they have absolute authority to call in and try to staff the jail to a number that's sufficient for safety. So no.
Okay, great. That's going to wrap it up, everyone. And since I have Sheriff Tompkins unmuted, I'm going to ask her to be the first person to give her closing statement.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you. This is
You're welcome.
obviously the new normal, doing everything by Zoom and virtual, and it's obviously different. But I appreciate the opportunity to get out and to be asked questions and to get to answer those questions. And I appreciate people that have that interest and are really paying attention. And I would ask them to pay attention. You know, I think that I should also say that I appreciate Ms. Brown for being here tonight. And you can tell that she and I both have worked for the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office, and we know what working for the Sheriff's Office really means. And so I appreciate that from Ms. Brown. And I just appreciate everyone tuning in and listening. And of course, I just want to say, I'm asking for your vote. You know, I've told people this before. I don't take it for granted. I do think we've accomplished a lot, but there's more to do. And I just appreciate the people's confidence in me and giving me the opportunity to do it. I think it's I think I'm good at it. And I think that it's where I'm supposed to be and I'm doing what I should be doing. So I just ask the folks to come out and vote in the Democratic primary.
Thank you very much, Sheriff, for being here. And now let me unmute Ms. Pam Brown. And so what is your closing statement?
My closing statement is thank you, first of all, for having this, and thank everybody for their questions that called in. I just want everybody in the community to know that I want to be your sheriff for Muskogee County. I want to establish a system of fairness. I want to establish a system of consistency. I want to be able to make decisions and provide directions and guidance in a consistent manner and stick to a plan. I'm not one to follow suit with others that's figureheads within the community. I will work with them, but I want to be able to establish that communication with the community, establish a system of vigorously honesty, because you can't profit from anything legitimate without honesty. Without trust, you have nothing. So that's something that I feel is lacking within this community, the consistency, the honesty, and the fairness. That's something I want to bring to Muskogee County, and I want to be here to help see my 6-year-old grandson grow up in a good environment and a violent-free community. I don't want him to go out here and it's the crime and what have you. I think as sheriff, me being Black, I believe I could get out here and talk to some of these gang members out here. I know we have put together a gang task force with the Columbus Police Department. Hopefully it's working. I want to be able to get out there on the streets too. I'm a hands-on person. When I worked in the sheriff's office, I was more the street person, where Sheriff Tompkins was more the inside person. I was the outside person. I still plan to be on the outside helping the community. I wish everybody would consider me for sheriff and come out to vote and vote for me in the primary and let me help get this city back to some good.
Thank you very much.
That's all I have.
Pam. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. Thanks again for coming out for the Muskogee County Dems Sheriff Forum. I hope that you have some more information than when you came in. And please keep an eye out on our page for information about next week's forums, because I know not everybody can make this, and we'll also be posting this video on our YouTube channel. So that's it, everybody. Take care. Thanks.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.